Hello and welcome to Programming 2 Tutorial 6, Expanding Existing Systems. In this tutorial, we will go over the concept of integrating new code into existing systems. Things like you will add lives to the player, utilizing the existing game manager system that you were given at the beginning of this project. You will add new interactable objects utilizing the interactable system that you created last week. And you will expand the map with those new interactables. And add more obstacles to create a better game experience. By the end of this tutorial, you should understand the process of expanding upon existing work, as well as how to effectively read and insert code within existing systems, making sure to leverage everything at your disposal. If you are looking for the submission for this week, that will be covered in the recap section. Until then, let's get started. All right, so the first thing that we want to do is open up the UnityPackage or the drive link that is linked in the description and download the UnityPackage, like so. Once you have it downloaded, we can open up our project. Now that we've got the project open, if we remember from last week, we implemented interactables. And so for this, I plan on we don't need the majority of these. Just going to delete them. And our health pack heals 50. And yeah. So this week, what we'll be doing is, number one, we're going to import package tutorial 6. And you'll see that we have different prefabs in an environment map pieces folder. As well as we have another item, it's called weapon upgrade. So we're going to throw this into the interactables folder. And you'll notice that our map pieces look something like what we already have here. So this is just an easier way for the non-artist to expand the world and change what's in it, as that will be part of your task later today. So in order to do that, I'm just quite simply going to delete our current world, I'm going to empty our current world. First, we're going to right-click, unpack prefab, so that level is no longer prefab, and just empty our current world. Call this environment. And so we're going to throw that in there. Throw it at 0, 0. Move the player up a little. So the player's at 0, 0. And yeah. And then I want another room, but I want it to be 180. There we go. And then I would like a small room off to the side. So 90. And there we go. In moments, I've created a brand new, completely different map. Another thing that we're going to do is go into enemy stuff and edit our spawn point, set this to local. Rotate it like so. And then we're gonna set up some spawn points in our new room. There we go. So now that we've added new spawn points, we can simply just select all of those, go to spawn points, remember the lock button up here, and then select all of the new ones, so 2, 3, 4, and just drag and drop. And then we can increase the amount of enemies to 8. And yeah. So lastly, we just want to make sure to add some doors. Make sure that the doors fit. And we want to unlock our inspectors. Set this to do something like -7.5. Time to close will be like 1. And it moves on the X. And then we're going to create a second door. And rotate 90. Sorry, we're just going to delete that. And we're going to drag and drop a new door. Rotate it 90. This one should fit almost perfectly. Change it to -7.5 just about. Change it to time to close to 1. And then we're going to uncheck move on the X because this one needs to move on the Y to open. From there, we want to add in a health pack, obviously. You'll notice, though, that our health pack does not spawn at 0, and we want it to. So we just switched our prefab to have it spawn at 0. So that's 2 health kits. We're going to put 1 in here. And a second one over here. And then, yeah. So in that time, we've just created a brand new, fully functioning level. So you can just walk up to, open the doors, heal, leave, go into another room. And all of this can be done to just add extra fun to your level. There's never a safe place. And if you really wanted to, you could add in extra AI to your enemies such that if they don't actually have a sight line to the player, they won't try to chase him. And that won't be shown in this tutorial, but feel free to ask your TA about something like that, as it is a pretty cool thing to have and something cool to just do for fun as if it might help your game. Keep in mind your TA is always there to help you with your GDW stuff. But yeah, so now that we've added a new level, we have this new weapon upgrade, but we don't know what we want it to do. Well, so what we're going to get it to do is we're basically going to make it modify the damage of our weapons. So in order to do that, we'll need to open up weapon. We'll just wait for it to open. And then we'll need to open up gun. We'll need to open up bullet. And we'll need to open up chainsaw. And then lastly, we will need to right click, create weapon upgrade script. There we go. Just closing all the ones that we don't need right now. So the way that this modification will work is, so if you see our bullet, sorry, this will be the damage modifier. This will be a public value so that it can be edited by the weapon when it spawns. And by default, your weapon's damage mod will be 1.0. This way means no change. So then you just multiply in the damage mod. And you multiply in the damage mod. And that's it. And that is it for this one. After that, however, we want to go to gun. And so we mentioned that we want our gun to be able to use a damage mod. In order to do that, if you remember, gun inherits weapon. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into weapon. And we're going to add damage modifier. So we'll just add this right here. We're just going to call it public float. And by default, when your weapon spawns, it'll be 1.0. And so keep in mind, this weapon upgrade that we will be making will not be persistent. It will not be something, if you change off the weapon, you will lose your combo, I guess, is the way to put it. Now, if you wanted to make it permanent, you could actually go into the player controller and have the player controller store the damage modifier. This way, you can give it to the weapon whenever you spawn a new weapon. But in this case, I just want it to apply to the currently equipped weapon and disappear when we change off of it. So with that, now that we have a damage modifier and weapon, we can go into gun. And as you can see, when we spawn it, we actually store the spawned bullet. So we can basically transfer the damage modifier. So spawned bullet dot get component. Get component bullet damage mod equals damage modifier. And that's it. That's all for your guns. Now your guns will transfer whatever damage modifier you add to them. From there, we want to go into the chainsaw and quite simply just multiply in the damage modifier value, since the chainsaw directly does damage. And that's all you need to do for that. So now that we've completed all these, we can just close them up. We don't actually need them at all anymore. So with our weapon upgrade, first we wanted to inherit interactable. And next up, we want to have an upgrade value. I went with something reasonable, like a 25% increase to damage. And then we're just going to public override void interact. And then call base interact function. Hit a T. Base dot interact. Grab player. Now why is that underlined? Oh, it's because we made interact abstract. So as of right now, we can't call the base interact function. Completely forgot about that. Getting ahead of myself. As we will be making that not abstract very soon. In this video, actually. So player controller, player, utility.getPlayerObject. And so we just want to store the player controller component. And then, so if player has a weapon in hand, so weapon in hand is not equal to null, player.weapon in hand dot damage modifier plus equal to upgrade value. and then destroy this .game object. But else, we actually want to use our debug log warning, or log rather, simply because this isn't like game breaking. This is something the player can absolutely do. It just won't do anything. Player is holding no weapon. And that's it. That is it for our weapon upgrade. Pretty simple stuff. You know, we can close that up now. So now that we've got our weapon upgrade complete, we just gotta wait for it to load. We can go to interactables, drag a weapon upgrade into the world. Let's make it a tad bit smaller. Apply override. And let's throw one in here. And then Control C, Control V. Let's throw one up here. And let's throw one down here. Keep in mind, there's a lot of different options for the maps, so you can have a lot more rooms than what I have currently. This is just a simple map that I've been using to test on. But it is encouraged that you make a much bigger map with weapon upgrades along the way and things like that. So from here, we can simply we need to simply go into interactables, click on weapon upgrade, add component, weapon upgrade. And so the upgrade value, let's just to test to make sure that works, 0.27%. Now, if you remember, we added a debug enabler, and in that debug enabler, we actually would print the amount of damage that your weapon does. So you hit for 5 damage. Pistol bullet hit for 5 damage. Pistol bullet still hit for 5 damage. Interesting. It is a pretty small increase. But 27% should still be a whole number. But that's okay. We can go down here. A weapon upgrade and a weapon upgrade. Interesting. Try switching it to 2. So this one down here will double. Which means it should be hitting for 10. It is killing them in one hit. Oh, that makes sense. So the reason why it isn't actually, even with the debug, isn't actually printing how much damage we did, simply because our debug statements do not include the damage modifier. And that's it. So we just need to damage value times damage mod. And that's it. That should fix it. So we reduce this back down to 0.25. And then, as you can see, we hit the door for 6.35 damage. 3.75, 4.56. So each shotgun shell now hits for 4 damage. Which is enough to kill a cacao demon in one shot. Assuming you hit them with all shells. Well, I would say that the game sounds a little quiet, wouldn't you? And we have all these nice sounds. Why don't we actually use them? So that's what we're going to do. We are going to implement our sound stuff finally. So we have music and sound effects. So we got sound effects for our enemies, sound effects for our interactables, sound effects for our death, and sound effects for our attacks. So this is pistol and this is shotty. So if we go back to weapons, funnily enough, we'll actually notice we already have it. I have already given the code for weapon sounds. So if we just go to weapons, click on shoddy, lock it, go to SFX weapon, click on the shoddy, drag and drop it, and then go back over to weapons, go to pistol, unlock, relock, sound effects weapon, doom attack pistol, unlock, go back to weapons, go to chainsaw, lock it, go back to weapon, go to chainsaw idle, and keep in mind, the only reason that these were given to you is because we will also be covering sound in your GDW tutorials, if you haven't covered it already at this point. And so there's no reason to really overdo it with the weapons. We will, however, be implementing it. As you can see, the interactables don't have sound available, and they should. As well as, yeah. Our enemy also needs a death sound added to them. But, for example, our cacao demon, if we go to enemy, cacao attack, there we go. Now if we play, oh, unlock. Interesting. So we can debug that. Let's go to weapon. That makes sense. We actually haven't implemented playing sound, which is really easy. There's no reason, like I said earlier, there was no reason to show the process of actually adding the inspector stuff, but we can simply do public void play sound. And then that'll be audio source dot play clip at point, attack sound, and then transform dot position. And that's it. Now your guns play sounds. And if we go to chainsaw, we'll just do the exact same thing. Except chainsaw is actually more of just an idle sound. Idle source, or sorry. We do need to add So because the chainsaw is actually going to just be a constant sound, we're just going to add an idle source. Idle source dot clip attack sound, and then idle source dot play. And that'll be it. That's it for chainsaw. Yeah, as for like that, that'll work for what we've written here. Will work for all the individual guns. The only thing that we need to make sure to do before we play, which I've already clicked the button, it's gonna get mad if I try to bring out the chainsaw. Thing that we need to make sure to do is go to weapons, go to chainsaw, add a audio source, drag and drop that, set it to loop and not to play on awake, and set it to a lower volume because it can be loud. As you can see, or wait, as you can see, we now have sound. You'll notice obviously the player already has an audio listener. From there, we just want to, interesting. But it happens. So if we go over here and we check, we can physically check. It's a sound that functions. The other thing that we forgot to do, that is why it isn't functioning. If you noticed, good on you, first of all. So we have this play sound. Where do we ever call it? We never do. So we're going to play sound and in the fire function. And that'll be it. Now we've actually called it. So now if we chainsaw function, you can hear them firing their fireballs.